Roll call.
Hill,
Here.
Mayor Murphy,
Here.
Mayor Valenzuela,
Here.
Chairman Hernandez,
Here.
General Maxwell,
Here.
Mayor Post,
Here.
and Mayor Romero.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Item number 2 is called to the audience. Do we have any people waiting for call to the audience?
Madam Chair, we do have a speaker today. As a reminder, speakers are limited to a 3-minute oral presentation and may submit written comments of any length for the council's files. Calls to the audience are limited to 30 minutes. Individual council members may respond to criticism made by those individuals who have addressed the council. However, the council will not discuss or take action on a matter raised during a call to the audience that is not already on the agenda. And today we have Mr. J.P. Salvatierra. All right. And thank you, Mr. Salvatierra. You are now in front of the Regional Council. If you would start your comment by stating your name for the record, and after that, you'll have 3 minutes to address the PAG Regional Council. At the 2-minute mark, I'll politely hold up a finger to let you know you have 1 minute remaining.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jonathan Salvatierra. I'm a native Tucsonan. I'm an active real estate broker here in Tucson for community issues and a diehard for sacred water and our projects that influence these outlines and the things that we can do in a long-term project that can support and alleviate environmental threats to the health and the public and any issues that may hinder our long-term future and prosperity and tourism and everything else that is so responsible for each of the members of these boards to accomplish directly and indirectly with the consensus and objectives of the public that they represent. First of all, the biggest thing that I identify is the investment value as an obstacle. I know that we're all aware that when the economy changes or when we'll say we get an extra $1 trillion deficit, that it seems as though the value of the dollar drops about 10 cents. That's my opinion. But I try to randomize things in a way that makes it realistic so that when I get an interpretation of what's happened or this administration did so much that they cost us X, this is what happened. And this is how we feel after the fact when we're paying it back. And the value of property and the value of projected value of our infrastructure, the projected value of the latest programs that come into that planning with the past RTA. I remember that a lot of our programs were put on hold. They were incomplete, or the ones that were completed seem to have unusual problems that were not of the quality that I presume that Phoenix has. So with that in mind, we do the compliance to future needs, our best proven technology, long-term, not just for 20 years. Our bonding authority and the value of that it's well-placed and it's timely and it's the best quality that we can find to achieve our goals. I mentioned the federal debt, the inflated cost of the last 20-year projects that we see that, by Mr. Ortega's estimation, amounted to $1 billion of inflated cost to the Tucson projected projects and the cost of the ones that were completed. So those are the basic interests that I have and that I'd like to follow up and hope and encourage the boards achieve their goals on. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Madam Chair, at that time, that's all the speakers that we have.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ledford. And we move on to item 3, meeting summary approvals.
Move to approve.
There's a motion to approve. May I have a second? There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Motion carries. And I just want to let the record show that Regional Council Member Hines and Regional Council Member Jose have joined us at the table. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate you too. We move on to item 4, consent agenda items.
Motion to approve.
There is a motion to approve and may I have a second.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I have,
Yes, Councilmember Winfield.
so just one comment on item B. The Oro Valley or Town of Oro Valley would like to request that a sentence or two that just gives a brief explanation as to what the contract is and some brief financial information that's related to those contracts that would just facilitate the review of those. So again, we're just asking for a sentence or two and then financial summary information. So, thank you.
So that is just additional language. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries. Item 5, PAG Regional Active Transportation Plan. I know that PAG staff has a prepared presentation. Ms. Hannah Oden is at the podium to give us a presentation. Ms. Oden?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, members of the Regional Council. So today I'm going to be providing a brief presentation on the final draft of the PAG Regional Active Transportation Plan, or the RATP, now that we're at the end of the process. So this plan identifies key corridors and provides recommendations for a connected and cohesive active transportation network. A link to the full plan is included in your meeting packets, and it's also online on the project webpage. And as a reminder, the Regional Council authorized PAG to enter into a contract with the project consultant, Kimley Horn, in January of 2024 to complete the plan. And throughout the process, we've worked closely with representatives from PAG member agencies through the project's technical working group, and have also brought regular updates to PAG committees, primarily the Transportation Planning Committee. And at their November 12th meeting, the Management Committee recommended approval of the draft plan to Regional Council. So today, this is an action item for approval of the plan. And before I begin, I want to recognize Kristen Faltz from the project consultant team who's joining us today virtually, and she'll be available for any questions if needed at the end. So developing the RATP was an extensive process and included a comprehensive evaluation of existing active transportation conditions in the PAG region. An analysis was conducted related to travel behavior, safety, equity, connectivity, and additional elements to inform the plan. We had extensive participation, and as I mentioned earlier, from member agency representatives through the technical working group to identify a high priority network for active transportation investments that was then used to develop context appropriate recommended projects. And there are 118 in total, and those are shown at a high level on the map on the right-hand side of the slide. And lastly, the plan evaluates and documents anticipated air quality and public health benefits based on the project recommendations. Before I move on, I want to talk about the public engagement for this project. So there were 3 rounds of targeted outreach to gain public feedback, specifically on the existing active transportation network, which was covered in round 1, the draft projects, which was covered in round 2, and then the 3rd round of public engagement is where we were looking for public feedback on the draft plan overall. So overall, this included 14 pop-up in-person events throughout the region, 2 public surveys, and 3 interactive web maps where the public could leave comments. So I'm now going to provide just a high-level overview of the components, the content, and the organization of the plan. So this slide just shows how the plan is laid out. So there's 6 main chapters that I'll discuss in a little more detail in the following slides. So the first part of the plan is the introduction, and this section of the RATP provides an overview of the project as well as information just on the overall planning process. And also includes the vision, goals, and strategies that were developed as part of the plan. And on each slide, there will be pictures just as examples and what's included in each chapter. So the second chapter, Understanding Your Region, focuses on the existing conditions analysis that was done at the beginning of the project. And this really created a foundation for the plan. So this includes developing a regional data set that documents existing facilities and includes information on relevant regional plans that address active transportation that were reviewed as part of this process. And it also includes the technical analysis, and that identified where demand currently exists, where there's mode shift potential to transition those short vehicle trips to active modes trips, an evaluation of safety for active transportation users, and an equity and public health analysis. And this section also includes the summary of the first round of public engagement. So this next section covers the corridor identification process to identify possible areas for active transportation improvements. And this includes an overview of corridor priorities such as equity and public health, safety, and active trip potential, as well as the associated evaluation criteria that were then used to develop 3 corridor network alternatives, which really served as the starting point to identify a single network. So from all of that analysis and the results, the final preferred high priority network was developed with significant input from the technical working group. The preferred network captures the most critical active transportation corridors where there are needs and opportunities and served as the foundation for developing those recommended projects. This section also highlights the benefits in air quality and public health by increasing that we would expect by increasing active transportation along the priority network. So overall, the reduction is about 5,500 metric tons of pollutants each year, which equates to approximately $1.6 million in annual savings. And the fourth section of the plan provides an overview of the active transportation toolbox. And this serves as a guide to member agencies for a variety of context-appropriate active transportation improvements that can be applied throughout the region. And the toolbox was used to develop those recommended projects as well. So these treatments, you can see there's a couple examples shown on the slide and what's included in the toolbox, and they range from bike lanes to shared use paths to crossing improvements and traffic calming measures, and are based on national best practices. The full toolbox is included as an appendix, but there is a summary in the main part of the plan. All right, the next section, Strengthening Regional Connections, is where details are provided for the recommended projects along the preferred high priority network, including just the process and the different recommendations by geographic areas. And again, there are 118 project recommendations in total. A variety of tables and maps are provided in this section. A couple examples are shown on this slide. And for each project, you can find the title of the recommendation and a quick summary of the improvements, as well as the estimated planning level cost. An appendix is included with the document that provides additional details on the scope of each of these projects. And because the second and third rounds of public engagement focused on receiving feedback on the draft projects as well as the overall plan, a summary of those efforts is also included in this section. All right, and lastly, the path to progress. This is the chapter that wraps up the RATP that discusses an implementation process as well as potential funding opportunities that member agencies could leverage to implement projects. All right, and this concludes my presentation. As a reminder to the Regional Council, this is an action item to approve the Regional Active Transportation Plan. I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, I'm Kristen Faltz from Kimberly Horn is joining us virtually as well. Thank you.
May I have a motion, please, to approve the RATP?
Move to approve, please.
There is a motion. Is there a second on the motion? A couple of seconds, and then discussion. Any discussion? I do have some commentary. I think that now having this information with us to be able to put it to work is going to be key. I think that we've all seen the stories on the paper, right? The pedestrian and bicycle crashes and the lack of safety on our streets for pedestrians and bicyclists. And so I'm glad that there's a lot of examples of how we can create more safety Safety, the safety of people walking and biking is a huge problem. And it's not just happening here in Pima County or in Arizona. It's happening throughout the country. And I don't know if you all read the story in the Arizona Daily Star. It was a front page article talking about the problems regarding the safety of pedestrians and bicyclists throughout the country. And it is a huge issue that we really do have to tackle together. I did bring a memo, but that's going to be later on in the meeting, requesting that we, as a Pima Association of Governments, take a look at how to make pedestrian and bicycle safety that much better as a region. I think we need to tackle this. I'm happy that PAG is taking an active role in creating a plan within the regional active transportation system. And I think that moving forward, our role as a Pima Association of Governments and a planning organization, this piece will be super important for us to tackle pedestrian and bicycle safety. I also understand that Pima County, together with the city of Tucson, was successful in being selected for a Safe Streets for All grant. And we are collaborating and putting together an action plan. I don't want us to do work that is already being done. So it might be a good idea to have Pima County maybe present to staff at PAG and see how we can further collaborate with pedestrian and bike safety in our community. So I just wanted to add that. I don't know if any others have some questions or comments. Council member?
Ms. Oden, the town of Oro Valley is working on a similar effort that parallels this nicely, and I know our staff has been working with you. When our plan is completed, is there a process that the information that is in the town of Oro Valley plan that's not reflected in this can be integrated or incorporated? Is there a process to do that?
Madam Chair, Mayor Winfield, I could think that maybe that information efforts could go into the next RMAP cycle. It's also our long range transportation plan.
And that cycle is what?
So it was just approved earlier this year. So in it'd be 4 years from now, roughly.
Thank you.
No, I'd just be interested when you do have that presentation by the county I'm not clear if it's just working with the city on those proposals or working with all the municipalities. We all participated recently on an economic development plan the county's working on. So I'll just be curious to make sure that it's all inclusive with all of our
And it might
communities.
be, council member, it might be a good conversation to have at the table.
Right.
With all of us so that we can, the issue is not having to do the same work,
Multiple times.
multiple times. So maybe it's an opportunity to include your town's input into what's happening with the Safe Streets for All action plan. So we can talk further in terms of how to itemize it at the next PAC meeting, but it might be a really good conversation for all of us to have at this table.
Thanks.
Alrighty, so there's a motion and a second. Any further discussion or comments?
Madam Chair, I just wanted to point out the RTA Next plan has $254.6 million for safety and active transportation. The idea is this will set some of the framework for that. So the conversations that happen can already, basically be guided by what you've seen.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to mention that there's already a plan for investment, assuming that RTA Next is successful in March. But I wanted to point that out and remind you that that's already included. Thank you.
Yeah,
Madam
that's
Chair.
a great point. Councilmember Maxwell.
Madam Chair, since the executive director brought it up, I think it's really important to remember that often these plans are great, but if they don't have funding behind them, it
Right.
becomes a challenge. So we have to think about that. And it's not just the 254 million that's in the safety for an active transportation category that makes these types of improvements. Every single road project that is in there will also have those safety, both the safety and the active transportation aspects built into the project. So when you look at it, it's a lot more than 254 million in the RT Next. It's probably closer to 1.4, 1.5 billion when you add up the different areas that all contribute to that safety and
Safety.
active transportation.
That's right. Councilmember.
Can I just piggyback off of that? The other advantage is if it does pass, when it passes, it also frees up the PAG money that's been dedicated. So, you know, it compounds. It's the road projects, it's the dedicated funding. And also as those needs become apparent as we move forward, that those PAG monies are also available, which we've used over the years before, you know, we were sweeping them to try to continue our commitment to RTA 1.
So further highlights the need to have this conversation as a regional council. Councilmember Jose.
Good day to everyone, Madam Chair, honorable board members. All I have to say is as long as South Tucson, Bosco Yaqui, and Tohono Nation are not forgotten and pushed to the wayside. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely agree. Councilmember Heinz.
Thank you. I understand that earlier on in like with regard to the methodology here, I know City of Tucson staff and Pima County staff, as well as I believe Town of Marana staff had some concerns about specifics of the methodology and how this was conducted. So can we just clarify for me, for the group here, and also for the, like, is what we're approving like a proscriptive dollars will go in these buckets kind of thing? Or is this more of a guide? Because I'm just trying to figure out what is going to be happening because of this plan specifically, and what does this vote exactly mean?
Madam Chair, I'll take a stab at that. I think that question did come up at actually the TMC as well. And the concern was the prescriptiveness, or is this a prescriptive recipe, if you will, for how these dollars would be expended? The short answer is no. This is a guide in terms of what the region's priorities are today, right this minute. But it obviously has opportunity, particularly when we start getting into the detail of the RTA Next investments, as well as the regional fund investments down the road. There is flexibility. So this is intended to be the guide for the region in terms of the information that we've gathered, but it is not intended to be prescriptive and said we can only stay within this plan. That is not the intent.
Any others? All righty. If no other points of discussion, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries. Item 6. Alrighty, item 6, when I find it, is dial-a-ride and micro transit service area analysis. Ms. Ogden and Mr. Preston McLaughlin are going to present on this too.
All right, thank you again, Madam Chair, and hello again, members of the Regional Council. So for this agenda item, we'll be providing a brief presentation on the PAG dial-a-ride and microtransit service area analysis. So link to the full report is included in your meeting packets and is also online on the project webpage. As a reminder, the Regional Council authorized PAG to enter into a contract with a project consultant, Kimley Horn, in May of 2024 to complete this study. Before I begin, I want to recognize Mariette Chevry from the Kimley Horn project consultant team, who is joining us today virtually and will be available for any questions. And this is being presented as an informational item. So microtransit, just as a reminder, is a public transit on-demand service model, so similar to Uber and Lyft, that provides curb-to-curb service where rides can be booked 10 to 60 minutes in advance instead of the usual 24 hours that's often needed for existing dial-a-ride service. The project began in June of 2024, again with the project consultant, Kimley Horn. And throughout the process, we worked closely with member agency representatives through the project's technical advisory committee, and have also brought regular updates to PAG committees, primarily the Transportation Planning Committee. So the goals of this study are listed on the slide and primarily focus on evaluating current dial-a-ride and some Sun Shuttle fixed route operations that are provided by PAG RTA. Evaluating opportunities for potential service improvements and also analyzing the feasibility of transitioning these services to a microtransit service model and identifying new areas that have potential for microtransit implementation. The study also looked at additional transit options specific to Picture Rocks and Vale, and that will be included as a forthcoming appendix to support the main part of the report. And lastly, we wanted to evaluate emissions if the proposed microtransit services were implemented. So this slide lists the key components of the study, which included a comprehensive evaluation of existing transit conditions and needs across the PAG region. So this looked at what is working well, where service might be lacking, and challenges that transit users might face. And these findings informed the recommendations of the study. The study identified 13 potential opportunity zones where microtransit could be implemented in the future and evaluated the projected ridership, fleet needs, and capital and operating costs for each of these zones. A Title VI and equity analysis was also conducted, which will be covered a little later in the presentation. And an air quality analysis was conducted to evaluate emissions for microtransit service compared to existing conditions. And lastly, the study includes considerations for microtransit implementation if those services are implemented in the future. All right, so before we get into some of the specifics of the opportunity zones, I want to go over the public involvement. And this took place over two main phases in October of 2024 and then earlier this year in March, and included surveys and a number of in-person outreach events. So outreach was targeted towards transit users through in-person outreach at the three main transit centers, as well as more rural communities, including Ajo, Vale, and Picture Rocks, to really identify those needs and preferences in those communities. Numerous focus groups were held, including those with transit drivers, residents, jurisdictional staff, employers, school districts, and social service agencies to really receive some focused feedback from those groups to help inform the study. And as mentioned earlier, we did work closely with the project's technical advisory committee throughout the process and received very valuable feedback throughout the process. Overall, there were 32 meetings, focus group discussions, and in-person engagement events as part of the outreach effort for this study. And that concludes my portion of the presentation, so I will turn it over to Mr. McLaughlin.
Thanks, Anna. So moving on to the next slide. So after collecting all of the data and running the analysis, as Hannah mentioned, Kimley Horn targeted 9 new potential microtransit service areas and kept 4 of the current dial-a-ride service areas that could be converted to microtransit zones at a later date. All 13 service areas are broken into 2 different service types. The first being the weekday service for areas that are more rural and have lower expected ridership, and then extended service for more urban areas with higher expected ridership. These extended service zones would have weekend service, slightly longer daily service hours, and shorter wait times for being picked up. And this map represents all 13 of the zones and their respective service types, with the weekday service type in orange and the extended service type in green. Moving on, this table displays important metrics to indicate how useful and efficient each proposed service area would be. This table lists each service area in order based on the expected ridership on an annual basis, with the highest annual ridership zones being at the top of the table and the lowest expected ridership zones being at the bottom of the table. And you'll also notice there are certain values that are highlighted in green and red. The values highlighted in green are the top 3 zones for ridership and efficiency, and the values highlighted in red are the bottom 3 zones for ridership and efficiency. Title VI and equity analysis was conducted for all the service areas where a fixed route shuttle service would be replaced with a microtransit service. As a whole, no disparate impacts were found with these theoretical transit service changes. One localized impact to note would be that replacing Route 450 with the Rita Ranch Micro Transit Zone would decrease the population being served. And in addition, air quality analysis was conducted to determine what the impacts would be if all of the proposed microtransit service areas were implemented. It was found that while total emissions do increase with the proposed service changes, the amount is negligible in comparison to the total regional on-road emissions, being less than 0.01% of an increase for the region. The study recommends breaking up service implementation into near, medium, and long-term phases over the next 10 years. By implementing all microtransit zones at year 10, this would cost approximately $12.3 million on an annual basis to operate. And it would cost about $2.3 million to acquire all of the vehicles needed to provide these services. Other important considerations to note when planning for the launch of a new microtransit service include making decisions related to the type of service model the transit agency wants to use, the technology that will be used by both the operators and the riders, fare costs, marketing of the new service to the general public, coordination with other agencies, and developing a feasible budget for the service, and also launching pilot projects to test the effectiveness of this new service type, roughly in that order. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have. And as Hannah mentioned, we do have staff from Kimley Horn available also to help answer any questions. Thank you.
Any questions?
Madam Chair.
Councilmember Murphy?
Well, one, I'm personally pretty excited about this. I've been following the microtransit movement, across the country, and it seems like it's more personalized, more effective, more flexible. So I'm happy to see we're moving in this direction personally. I do have a question though, for other areas of unincorporated Pima County, what does it take to actually qualify? Because of, my previous life doing some other things, I think of Amato, Arivaca, Elephant Head, and 3 Points, some of those areas that really have a struggling demographic, and transportation is usually the linchpin from it. So I'm just curious on where you have to get to actually be included in I know we're beginning on this, but the smaller areas, how do we help meet their needs in the future?
Thank you for that question, Mayor Murphy. So first and foremost, the microtransit zones and the eligibility criteria, at least for what we're envisioning, it would be similar to our general public dial-a-ride services where everyone, you don't have to qualify per se. The only qualification would be if you live, and if you're, not even if you live, if your origin and destination are both within the service area boundary, then you're able to take it.
I see.
So there isn't any sort of eligibility. Anyone can theoretically be provided with these services in the future if we decide to move forward and implement them. In terms of other unincorporated areas of the county that could potentially benefit from microtransit service, I know, and maybe Kimley Horn, staff from Kimley Horn or Hannah could add to this, but I believe we looked at the county as a whole, and at least at this point in time, in terms of the demographics, the population, urban density, so on and so forth, these 13 zones were the zones that were that made the most sense and were where transit service isn't really available, and the gap would be filled with the microtransit service, typically in the suburban rural areas. I would say if population continues to increase in these communities, then we can reassess and determine if microtransit is a good fit for those communities. But yeah, I think at this point, they weren't targeted and picked out, but that doesn't mean in the future if demographics change and population increases and the need is there, we can always reassess, reevaluate, and run a similar type of analysis to determine if it makes sense.
Right. And I know this is the beginning of it, so I appreciate that, but
Of course,
it's just keeping the whole county in mind as we move forward. Thanks.
absolutely.
Councilmember Jose?
Thank you for the presentation. What would be some of the restrictions or unallowable services provided? Is there anything that you would say no? I'm just trying to think. I don't know of any. I'm just asking. Is there anything that you know that would not be allowable or would not restrict someone from utilizing the services?
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Jose. No, in theory, this service should be available to everyone. Again, the only parameters would be that where they're going and where they're being picked up need to be within the service area boundary, unless, I guess a caveat is there are certain nodes outside of the service area that are considered key destinations like hospitals and I know major shopping centers where they could theoretically go outside that boundary. But in terms of who is eligible, everyone should be eligible. Obviously, there's going to be rules and policies for the riders, and if they are unruly or prevent some sort of safety hazard for other riders or drivers, then there could be suspension, and those individuals probably couldn't utilize the service. But other than that, the service should be available for everybody.
Thank you for that. You're gonna need a really big truck to come to my house. Thank you.
Chairman, Council.
Councilmember, yeah. Oro Valley was illustrated in your presentation as a successful dial ride and growing program. Is the vision or intent that the microtransit, let's say in relation to Oro Valley, that this would be an additional alternative or option for our residents, the microtransit, and not replace the dial ride?
Yeah, so I believe the intent would be to replace the existing dial ride with the microtransit model, where it's basically the same thing. The only main difference I would say is that instead of booking 24 hours in advance, residents of Oro Valley could just book at that moment and be picked up within a 30-minute window. But the operational aspect of things shouldn't deviate very much from the actual dial ride service being provided in your community right now. So it'd only be an enhancement. It would cost a little extra, obviously, but it would be a lot more convenient for riders to get on an app, book a trip, and then be picked up in 30 minutes versus having to call in 24 hours, at least 24 hours in advance to book that trip.
Thank you.
Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mayor Winfield, you set up my question perfectly. So you had the numbers up there, I think $12 million annually, and you threw out a number to get all the financials. So there's the financials. Does the cost of actually running it, once it's up and running, and what kind of savings does it get us from what we're currently expending if it's going to be replacement? So we're not looking at that, or is that the differential?
It's my understanding that these numbers do account for the replacing of the existing services. So that would be the net increase to provide all of those services. That doesn't mean we need to provide all 13. That would be in the scenario if we did provide all 13 services. That's how much it would cost on an annual basis to provide transit service to all of those zones. You can, mix and match and pick.
And clarify, that includes the funding that like Oro Valley's already receiving for their dial-a ride. That would be in addition on the Oro Valley line up there.
Yeah, so the cost of service to run the Oro Valley dial-a ride was subtracted from this total calculation, and then the Oro Valley microtransit option was then added. So it does cover the difference, and it would be more. It would just be the increase when you subtract what they're currently paying to operate their dial-a ride. And then just on top of that, that's my Mariante or Hannah. Did you, is that accurate?
Yes, yes. This is the net cost. But the cost that is the operational cost is currently taken into consideration.
Yeah, I'm purely just trying to get if that's additional to what we're currently spending, or it is. So that's an additional amount of money we'd have to come up with every year on top of what we're currently spending for dial-a ride and other services.
Yeah, it will be additional, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any others? And this is for information only. Okay. Alrighty, if there's no additional questions or comments, we're gonna move on to our next item.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alrighty, we're moving on to item 7, Social Services Planning Subcommittee, Social Services Block Grant. Our presentation will be given by Janine Sullivan.
Hi.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Regional Council. As stated, I'm Janine Sullivan. I'm the Transportation, Mobility, and Accessibility Program Manager here at PAG. And I'm going to be going over the Social Services Block Grant for state fiscal year 27. So just to give you a quick overview of the action item, we are requesting your approval of the recommended funding allocations for the Federal Social Services Block Grant, politely known as SSBG, to the Arizona Department of Economic Security. The funding allocations for Pima County are pertinent to 12 to 13 service intent categories of the 5 broad service categories under the Social Services Block Grant. And it's important to note, just as a reminder, that these recommendations will result in funding for agencies in state fiscal year 27. PAG makes funding recommendations for service categories, not agencies. It does not review applications, reports, or have input into the state process once the plan is approved. And for context, the total amount of money available for Pima County through this block grant is consistent from year to year and is typically $1.4 million. To be exact, for state fiscal year 27 for the local plan level, it's $1,454,627. Pima Association of Governments, PAG, facilitates the process for developing recommendations for SSBG funding for Pima County under the guidance and direction of the Arizona Department of Economic Security. Human service organizations in Pima County may then contract with the state to provide services using these funds. So I wanted to give you a quick overview of the outreach that we did conduct to acquire subcommittee participation. So we extended invites to management committee to include members of each of the jurisdictions. We extended invites to Tohono Nation and Pasco Yaqui Tribe. We extended invites to over 50 nonprofit agencies across the region, including the United Way and Pima Council on Aging. We also invited a variety of local area experts from the Children's Action Alliance, the United Way of Tucson, a cooperative extension through the University of Arizona, a community volunteer with the Community Coalition for Prosperity, the community engagement manager at Pima County Health Department, and then from the city of Tucson, from the planning and community engagement team pertinent to HCD. So we conducted 2 meetings, one on October 7th of 2025 and the second on October 21st of 2025. You'll be happy to note that we had 14 participants on each date, and that is reflective of 14 different organizations on October 7th and 13 different organizations on October 21st. We did have participation from the city of Tucson, town of Amarana, town of Oro Valley, and a variety of other organizations on the first meeting as well as on the second meeting. We had a variety of presentations from Pima Council on Aging, Catholic Community Services, Valley Assistance Services, and Pima County during our recommendations process. Some key elements pertinent to our process is that, of course, we extended those local area experts an opportunity to provide a brief presentation using fact sheet templates as a guideline for those presentations. In lieu of a presentation, they were also allowed the opportunity to submit those fact sheets. As an overview of the fact sheets, or to serve as a guideline for their presentation, each of the fact sheets or guideline included the following elements: a regional needs overview, any changes in services, changes in needs, and changes in funding. We were very direct in ensuring that those that were presenting either a presentation or fact sheets were not to advocate for any one target group, and they should only present facts, data regarding demographics and needs, and offer a regional perspective. We discussed local issues and trends to determine local priorities, and of course, made the funding recommendations you'll see today. And again, as a reminder, it's for service categories and not agencies. As part of our process, the United Way provided a discussion tool to share existing local feedback about social services funding to support identifying which of the social services block grant categories present as top priorities in those associated plans. And the plans that were included in this tool included the Prosperity Initiative from 2023, the Pima County Cooperative Extension Needs Assessment from 2022, and the City of Tucson PCHIP Assessment from 2024. We did hold a public comment period of 10 days, and the public comment period began on Monday, October 27th of 2025. And it concluded on Wednesday, November 5th of 2025. All written public comments on the proposed program were to be received by midnight on Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. Of course, comments could be submitted via online through our public comment form at pagregion.com or emailed to publiccomments@pagregion.com, and of course, mailed to our appropriate address here at 1 East Broadway. No comments were received from the public during that public comment period. And I know in the past, we have been asked who has received funding under the social service block grant in our region. And I just wanted to highlight a few of the entities that have received funding in our region. Those are Emerge, Southern Arizona Legal Aid, Community Bridges, Primavera Foundation, Pima County Employment Services, Beacon Group, and DK Advocate Employment Agency, as well as Lang Southwest Language Interpreter Services. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull up the funding amounts or the funding and service intents if it's already not on the screen. But just to give you a high level overview of the different divisions that are pertinent to the social service block grant, they include the Department of Child Safety. And at the state fiscal year 27 local plan level, the amount is $286,031. And under the Division of Aging and Adult Services for state fiscal year 27 at the local plan level, it's $782,533. And then for Child and Community Services Division at the state fiscal year 27 local plan level, it's $289,330. And then Workforce Development Administration state fiscal year 27 local plan level is $39,538. And then finally, under Rehabilitation Services Administration, state fiscal year 27 local plan level is $57,195. And as stated previously, the total amount is $1,454,627 for state fiscal year 27. And just as a reminder, our action item is for the approval of these recommended funding allocation as provided by the Department of Economic Security. And the recommendation from the subcommittee was to not make any changes.
Thank you so much for the presentation. May I have a motion to approve the recommendations in the report?
I move to approve.
Okay, there is a motion to approve the recommendations in the report.
Second.
A second, and any discussion or questions on this item? Councilmember Maxwell.
I just have one question. So the total was 1.4 million, and that's because that's what's we typically receive. Is it a competitive process up there? I mean, do we give up money by not applying for more, or is it already how it's split up between the different counties or the different municipalities or the different MPOs? Is that already predetermined?
That's a great question. Thank you for asking. The Department of Economic Security, they provide us the funding and service intents for the respective state fiscal year. We don't really have any input on that. And then through this process, we provide recommendations to you, the council. And then with your approval, it gets submitted to the Department of Economic Security. The committee can provide additional insights in terms of what they would like to see the funding increase to, or how monies could potentially move from one division to another. But that's the extent of our input. And with that feedback, the Department of Economic Security, and through their process, they would decide what shifts need to be made with regard to the different funding levels for our region or any other region. But just to point as an example, based on the recommendations that the committee provided when we were doing this process for state fiscal year 26, they took that input and they actually made shifts in the funding amounts that resulted here that you're seeing in the funding allocations for state fiscal year 27.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I guess, yeah, it's a good answer, because as long as we're not saying, okay, this is what we normally get, so this is what we'll fill. Because I'll tell you from being on the State Transportation Board, if all the municipalities did that, a lot of them would get nothing. So you've got, if you don't get what you don't ask for. So if there's a need in the community, I'd suggest that we sometimes push the number a little bit, because ultimately, I understand it's out of our control. DES is going to be the deciding factor. But those who speak the loudest often get what they need. And so I just don't want to make sure we're not just settling and saying, okay, we know this is, we're going to get 1.4. This is how we'll do it. This is how, if we've got a greater need, we've got to be willing to step forward and ask.
Thank you, Chairman.
They can always say no.
Well, and Councilmember Maxwell, I was thinking the same thing, right? Is there any possibility of, with our motion to approve, is there a possibility of being able to ask for more money, right? The needs are great. And then my question was going to be, is there a possibility of expanding the uses based on the needs? In other words, we are seeing a huge need in mental behavioral health. We are seeing a huge need in substance use disorders. How can we request additional support and funds from the state to be able to serve unsheltered homelessness is a huge issue throughout Pima County. So how do we ask for more and for additional categories?
Thank you, Mayor Romero, and thank you, Councilmember Maxwell. I appreciate your questions. Mayor Romero, to address your question, I wrote some notes down based on what you shared, and I think what might be appropriate to do is go ahead and reach out to the Department of Economic Security, to the appropriate contacts, and ask for what is the methodology to provide that feedback and see what the next steps would be.
Would you want us to add to our motion to approve an additional caveat of requesting additional funds for additional uses? Would that be appropriate?
I'm happy to submit that as part of our process.
Mr. Ortega's shouting over there, yes, and I see Councilmember Valenzuela also nodding her head. Councilmember Jose.
Thank you for the information. I mean, that should be part of our regular practice all the time. What I heard say, want to make the most noise, I guess, not all the time, but if we remain silent, then we'll never get it, we just remain status quo. And there is a need out there. I mean, we see it all the way around us. And we should be able to, in our respective positions, to also advocate on behalf of the, this project, so forth. So I think it should kind of be always that motive that we need additional more, but we need to be careful, because when we do get it, we need to make sure that we're expanding it for its purposes, because if we're not and we're asking for more, and if I was the funding agency, I'll say, well, look, you got this, but you didn't do that. And either, I don't think there's something that's too much money. There's either not enough to do the things you want to do, and you have to kind of piecemeal it together, but there's always going to be a need. It's around us. And the challenges of yesterday are different today and will be different tomorrow. So we should always be thinking that way, forward thinking about, I mean, it doesn't take, put a whole report together, because if we just look at our communities, the challenges, every community is different. And it makes me really sad when I see these challenges when I drive down the streets. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be continuously to advocate for additional funding, additional services, and so forth. But we also have that plan in order to deliver that with the funding that's available. Those are my thoughts, respectfully. And if that's in someone's motion to increase it, I know she said something about with no changes, but I think that's just proving as it is. And if there's an opportunity, go back to DS. What do we need to do? I heard it say something about there's some discussion before that. So, and I think each one of us sitting around this table can also advocate in the right times, in the right places, that, hey, take a look at this. My thoughts, respectfully. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Will the motion maker consider, in addition to the motion,
Yes, I certainly welcome the amendment. I appreciate Councilmember Maxwell getting this discussion started, but would certainly amend the motion to include directing staff to request additional funding and services as related to this item.
Second.
Okay.
I agree as well.
Seconder will agree, and Councilmember Jose doubles the second. Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Maxwell and Valenzuela for encouraging this discussion and some of the additional possibilities of adding additional categories as well, if that's okay. Alrighty, so there's a motion, a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries. Right.
Thank you.
I don't know if you need to lost Supervisor Hines. I don't know if
Oh.
he's gone permanently.
I'm not sure if, where's the, oh, there he is. Okay. We have him here with us. And so we'll note that he also voted for this item as well. Okay, perfect. I got a thumbs up over there. Item 8 is the 2025 PAG Title VI Implementation Plan. And we are going to receive a presentation by Preston McLaughlin.
Thank you again, Madam Chair, members of the Regional Council. I'm back. Again, my name is Preston McLaughlin. I'm the Transportation Mobility Manager for PAG RTA, and I'll be filling in for Falana Jeremiah, who is our newest Title VI coordinator. Today, I would like to discuss PAG's Title VI plan for 2025 and request approval of this plan. Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act requires that any federally funded planning, programming, and project implementation activities be free of discrimination, specifically on the basis of race, color, or national origin. PAG currently receives federal funding from the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, for the region's transportation planning projects, and therefore our organization, excuse me, must comply with these federal requirements. The Arizona Department of Transportation, or ADOT, requires that PAG's Title VI implementation plan be reviewed and approved by the Regional Council on an annual basis. As a state subrecipient of federal funds, staff have worked very closely with ADOT's Civil Rights Office to ensure that this Title VI plan meets all state and federal requirements. On October 16th of this year, ADOT's Civil Rights Office used the FHWA's Title VI plan checklist to review and confirm that PAG's Title VI plan contained all the information necessary to meet all of these requirements. And this Title VI plan outlines the manner in which PAG's federally funded transportation projects comply with the requirements of Title VI, as well as how the RTA responds to complaints or allegations of discrimination. The plan contains the procedures for filing a Title VI complaint, as well as a copy of the Title VI complaint form, which is available in both English and Spanish. Additionally, this plan and all other PAG Title VI information will be publicly available on our website. So with that, I would like to request approval of this plan for the from the Regional Council. So PAG is in full compliance with ADOT and the FHWA. And I'm happy to try and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Actually, I think you need an approval, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I move to approve.
There is a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion on this item? I am gonna add some discussion to this item because this is an item that I have been really taking a look at since I first got here. So Mr. Ortega, if you allow me to give some input. I think the document is written well, and it's been getting better and better every year that we discuss this. We need to make sure that the PAG, emphasize our commitment for continuous improvement of the Title VI plan, and that we get better and better every year. So I believe that highlighting the PAG's focus on reaching underserved and historically marginalized populations, improving our data collection, improving our outreach methods and engagement strategies to ensure all voices are meaningfully included in this plan as we move forward is very, very important, especially the hard to reach elderly, our relatives in the in indigenous nations within our community, in rural areas of our community that have great need. And of course, historically marginalized populations really need to, Title VI report really needs to reflect that work. And how we're going to address those needs from those populations through our planning, both transit and transportation, and other issues that we should be talking about at this table. The Title VI plan needs to go into detail in terms of how we're going to reach, but how we're going to correct the needs of those communities through funds from both PAG and, as a consequence, RTA as well. I think we need to underscore the importance of more clearly demonstrating our planning efforts, how we're going to deliver additional funds to make sure that we're addressing the inequities that really have been historically through generations and decades been existing for a long time. And then finally affirm that the Title VI plan should tell a more complete and transparent story of our progress. So these are our needs. This is how we're going to attend to them. And this is the progress that we are making with our Title VI planning, where we're doing well, where we're not doing great, where we need to improve, and how we will measure the success moving forward. I think that's my input in terms of how we make this report better and more meaningful. But other than that, I think this report has been getting better and better every year.
Thank you, Mayor.
Other than that, any other questions, observations, comments? Oh, hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries. And we move on to item 9. Executive Director's Employment Agreement. Ms. Lisa Ann Smith will give us a report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I prepared a new formal contract for the Executive Director based on the input from the board at the last meeting. The primary change is that it's a term contract through the end of December 2026, subject to annual renewal thereafter. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions, comments?
Move to approve. Second.
There's a motion to approve and a couple of seconds. Any additional questions or comments? Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. We're moving on to item 10. Request for future agenda items. Alrighty, so this is a new item that we've just currently added to this particular meeting. One of the reasons that Councilmember Post and I really wanted to add this item to the agenda is to be able to have some preliminary not discussion, but an advance of future items and give the opportunity to any of the council members at this table to add items that you wish to discuss at our next meeting. I know that Councilmember Hines was thinking of adding something, but I wanted to add, as I gave you the preview beforehand, that I would like to add an item. Oh my God, I need my glasses. An item to our following meeting to discuss the role PAG serves in providing planning support for traffic safety region-wide. For both, in particular, I'm interested in improving safety for our most vulnerable users of the transportation system, those that are walking and biking. Far too many people have died on our roads. And it's not particular to Tucson, right? It's happening throughout Pima County. And I would like to be able to have a conversation about how we work together. to make sure that we are putting together an action plan. As I said previously, Pima County and the city of Tucson received a grant to put an action plan together for bike and peds. If it's possible that we merge these efforts, or at least have PAG collaborate and give input to that process, that would be wonderful. So I'll give you all a memo, and if there's any other of my colleagues, Councilmember Maxwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I echo. I think these are the kind of topics that, too often when we get wrapped up in trying to get the next thing that we have to get across the line, we forget about going back and taking a look at this. What I would ask to really highlight that is, it's something I don't know if I've really seen it. That's a single document that shows us where are the areas that need most emphasis throughout the entire county. So we can take a look at just the sheer numbers, where they're happening, what they're happening. You can't address the problem unless you really understand it. So we've got to know where the challenges are and then what's leading to those areas being challenges. Because sometimes we think the solution may be one, and it's really something else that will stop the deaths and accidents from happening. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you so much, Councilmember Hines.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to add on a future meeting, which does this just go to the next one, like January 29, or is it? Okay. The discussion of expanding the membership of this body. So I think it makes a lot of sense. In other similar entities in other jurisdictions, for example, they have like a transit dedicated person. So like the city of Tucson obviously would, I think, benefit from having a transit member. And like the University of Arizona clearly runs a transit program as well, and they are a population of 50,000 by themselves. So I think okay, I don't need to get into all the details of the item, but I think we can talk about just kind of in terms of best practices, other similar regional councils have additional membership. And my reading of the statute, and I was a legislator for 4 years, so that just makes me really dangerous. But I believe, and our council can do a thorough review of this and tell us next time. I believe it's a simple majority vote of this group. I don't think it's like, I don't think it has to go to the voters. I don't think that we need the statutes changed or anything like that. And also the inclusion of transit members, and we can talk about like airport authority and stuff like that too, but in the inclusion of transit members, I believe is actually in the state handbook governing these entities. So this is definitely a best practice that we should consider doing.
Will we expect a memo requesting the item? Awesome.
Yes, I'll do that for the January meeting.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All righty. Any others? Any others? Okay. Then we move on to item 11, which is an executive session. And do I need to read the pursuant to ARS language?
Yes, my suggestion is that you read the language and get a motion to convene an executive session at the end of the RTA meeting.
Okay.
And to recess this meeting until then, and then have the executive session jointly with the RTA board.
So pursuant to ARS 38-431.03A3, discussion or consultation for legal advice with the attorney or attorneys of the public body, and A4, discussion or consultation with the attorneys of the public body in order to consider its position and instruct its attorneys regarding the public body's position regarding contracts that are subject of negotiations, impending or contemplated litigation, or in settlement discussions conducted in order to avoid or resolve litigation. The Regional Council will meet in a joint executive session with the RTA Board of Directors for legal advice and possible instructions regarding a notice of claim from the former executive director and related matters. May I have a motion to proceed in an executive session at the end of the RTA meeting, please?
So moved.
There is a motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this motion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any against? Motion carries. We will now start the RTA meeting and join the RTA board for the executive session.
Okay, well, thank
The
you.
meeting
It'll,
is adjourned, no?
No, we
it's a recess. Your meeting is recessed. And the executive session will come at the end of the RTA agenda. And so I'm going to call to order the RTA board meeting, December 4th, 2025. Is there any need to take a brief break before we?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to take, a 5-minute break.
Yes.
I know she ate half your cookie or more, I
your conversations to a close and take your seats. Read, yeah, would you read those? Yeah. All the blue, right? Okay, thank you, board members, staff, and those that have joined us for the meeting. We're going to reconvene the RTA board meeting December 4th, 2025. All council members from PAG remain with us, so there's no need to have a roll call. We'll go to call to audience.
Mr. Chair, we do have one speaker today,
All right, thank you.
Mr. Salvatierra. I'll remind everybody, similar to regional council, speakers are limited to a 3-minute oral presentation, may submit written comments of any length for the board's files. Call to the audience is limited to 30 minutes. Individual board members may respond to criticism made by those individuals who have not addressed or who have addressed the board. However, the board will not discuss or take action on a matter raised during a call to the audience that is not already on the agenda. Again, speaker, please start your comment by stating your name for the record, and I'll let you know when there's remaining.
Thank you, sir. My name is Jonathan Salvatierra. I'm a Tucson native and a licensed real estate broker here in Arizona. The identification I wanted to make to this board and all the other concerned members, stakeholders, are that I honestly feel that there should be, if we're continuing a 20-year engagement for the RTA Next, that it must have something that allows for the shared inflationary offset of the members whose projects are last in line, okay? And that would be first projects completed, add a greater percentage of offset to the inflated cost of the last project's cost. All right, that's a very important factor that we saw could increase the inflated cost to the last members that are benefited of up to $1 billion. Now, the other mention that I wanted to make is that we have a beautiful opportunity in front of us with the Huckleberry Loop for a revamp of its benefit and use. We have a completed tunneling of undergrounding for twin 161 kV electric, removing all the mega poles in the Tucson Electric's projected future and the hazards that are created therein. The tornadic events that have been documented by the National Weather Service are going to be more increased and more hazardous in number. Promoting civil defense infrastructure funding with something that's undergrounded is a terrific offset benefit. This tunneling and maintenance undergrounding will include fiber optic cable for the city of Tucson and Pima County to sublet, scenic tram tourism, transportation. And this is a unique hub that can benefit everyone in an IGA, a master agreement that will allow minimal eminent domain to take place, many other different forms of funding, and as a centerpiece to the city of Tucson and Pima County Commonwealth utility as a master IGA, as I mentioned before. And I mentioned this before in other groups and other meetings. It's a centerpiece that we can't deny because presently $1.6 billion a year leaves Arizona to a foreign proxy that we can reinvest in our local community and have more control of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Chair, at this time, there are no more speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Ledford. We'll go to item 3, which is meeting summary approvals for the September 25th, 2025 and October 29th, 2025. The September meeting was a regular meeting. The October 29th was a special meeting. And I move to approve and seconded by Board Member Romero. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll go to item 4, which is consent agenda items. I do want to, as part of this item, there is an action that's required. And the City of Tucson IGAs presented for approval have a few minor edits to be noted. And I'm going to note those changes now. So for IGA 2025-008 Regional Transit Service Improvements, the change is this: the transit operations IGAs for FY 25-26 reflect staffing changes. Suzanne Messich will no longer be the city clerk. The interim city clerk will be Yolanda Lozano. No changes to Roy Lusk, noted as city attorney. For the 2025-009 fixed route transit services, the transit operations IGAs for FY 25-26 reflect staffing changes. Suzanne Messich will no longer be the city clerk. The interim city clerk will be Yolanda Lozano. No changes to Roy Lusk, noted as city attorney. And for the 2025-010 FTA grant AZ-2023-002-011, the procurement IGA amendment for FTA grant AZ-2023-002-011 has a date change to June 30th, 2027 rather than July 30th, 2027, defining the term for the completion of the project. Those are the changes to those amendment, or to those IGAs, excuse me. And I move to approve resolutions 2025-8, 2025-10, together with their associated IGAs as revised.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mayor, remove resolution 2025-008 and consider separately.
You may. So the resolution or the motion would be to approve resolutions 009 and 010 and their associated IGAs as revised. Is there a second? Seconded by Board Member Post. Any discussion? Chair or Board Member Jose.
Just, is that allowable when you have a consent agenda? You can make those amendments on there? So I'm getting a nod. Okay. So to make sure, because I've seen it done different in other ways. Just want to make a clarification of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Jose, for keeping us honest. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Board Member Romero.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I really appreciate the time to talk. The reason that I removed resolution 2025-008 is because it's an IGA between RTA and the city of Tucson, which provides funding by the RTA for transit services in and outside the city of Tucson. I believe it's important to recognize that thanks to the RTA, the first RTA, we are seeing an annual investment of more than $15 million in regional transit, including $3.6 million for weekday evening bus service, $2.8 million for expanded weekend bus service, $3.1 million for frequency and area expansion, $4.6 million for paratransit service region-wide, $457,000 for Suntran support for Sun Shuttle, and $1.2 million for express service. I just wanted to bring attention to these numbers because these numbers could possibly go away if the RTA next does not pass. RTA next can provide critical funding to not only continue this transit service for their region, but also allow for expansion of service, new high-capacity transit through the BRT, and funding for safety and security for our transit system. So with that, I just wanted to make a special note of this IGA and the funding it is providing for regional transit services. That's $15 million for regional transit services. With that, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda item.
Second that.
There's a motion. Oh, never mind. You do that.
Any discussion? So just for clarification, this is for IGA 2025-008. Okay, as amended. Yeah, all right. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll go to item 5, which is delivery of 2006 RTA plan projects. Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So what I'd like to do is give you a little bit of a thumbnail sketch of the approach that we're going to take over the next 2 meetings. Specifically today, we'll give you an update. Sam Credio in a minute will get up and give you an update on the status of some of the City of Tucson projects that are currently either under construction or will begin construction shortly. Next meeting, what I'll do is take a deeper dive with the staff on the status of the entirety of the RTA1 program and really outline for you what it looks like to get that piece completed and demonstrate to you that we've got a game plan for that. So there's 2 pieces to that. One is the process improvement side, which we're working on with our partners. And the second is just actually getting it done, putting all the pieces together to make sure that it happens within the periods as we outline. So with that, if you'd allow me, I'd like to call Sam Credio up to make a presentation on some city projects.
You bet.
Thank you.
Sam?
Get your own walk-up music.
I have my own hype music. That's awesome. All right. Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the RTA board. I very much appreciate the opportunity. I'll keep my remarks brief. I first want to start out and just thank Mr. Ortega and the RTA staff for their collaboration and partnership over the last 6 months. I believe that working together is imperative for the delivery of the 2006 RTA program, and we have been working together very well. In fact, we meet biweekly. We have begun to hold biweekly meetings with not only all of the City of Tucson project managers working on RTA projects, but we've invited RTA staff to participate in those meetings. In those meetings, we try to identify barriers, address issues proactively, and provide regular updates. So that way we are all working together towards the same goal. Just a few high-level project updates because I think it's important that you all know what we're up to. We have construction occurring on 3 major corridors across the City of Tucson, including Valencia, Kolb to Houghton, Grant Road phases 3 and 4, which is roughly Country Club to Swan, and the infamous downtown links, which I'm happy to report we are going to be holding a ribbon cutting on February 20th. We're all invited to participate in that celebration on the completion of the 3rd and final phase of downtown links. We also are anticipating groundbreaking events for up to 5 projects in 2026, including the widening of Grant Road at the Union Pacific Railroad, as well as the 22nd Street Bridge project, which I know has been a long time in the works. We are very excited to break ground on that project. It will end up being, when we begin that project, it will be one of the largest construction projects the City of Tucson Transportation Department has ever undertaken. And when that project is complete, it will be one of only a few segmental bridges in the entire state of Arizona. So we're very excited. And again, we hope you can attend that ribbon cutting. In total, we have 12 projects that we've begun planning, design, or construction on. And I just want to stand here today to let you know that we are committed to completing the 2006 RTA plan. We are laser focused on making that a reality And I appreciate sincerely all your support and would be happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Credo.
Mr. Chairman, just to reiterate, you can see the progress on some of these projects, and next meeting, we'll get into a lot more detail on some of the pieces, and as well as some of those, we'll call them future projects as well, that, when Sam talks about groundbreaking happening, there's a lot of pieces that are going to be involved in that. I do want to point one project out and just take a quick minute to highlight for you. But I think it encapsulates what we've been talking about at this table, which is the 22nd Street Bridge. That project is not only regionally significant to us as a region, but also to the state of Arizona, the railroad. I just learned this week that the railroad is patiently waiting for the project to be completed so that they can expand the rail yard. And so we can start to see how all of these things go together. But there's a shortfall, at least on the initial bids documents and the bid numbers. And so there's a conversation. Well, it's like, okay, how do we fund that? And so we're working together. We just had a meeting with the contractor, with the city and RTA staff. We had a conversation to say, we can't fail, right? We're not going to fail. We're going to figure out how to do this by working together, whether it's through value engineering, whether it's having a conversation with the contractor and a variety of the partners associated with this. And I'm happy to report that I think we've got a game plan. And so when we get together next in January, we're going to bring a recommendation to you, show you how all this can work and go together when we work together. And that's really the bottom line. And so I'm proud to report that because I think it is an example of where an extremely complex, difficult project is brought forth. And it could be easy to just say, well, it's too hard. We're not going to be able to figure it out. We're going to have to punt it or delay it, which is even worse, right? But we expect to have that groundbreaking, hopefully early in the calendar year. I think it was announced. And so we, again, want to highlight that as, what we've been talking about now is something that's going to happen out in the field. So that's all, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to mention.
Thank you, Mr. Ortega. Thank you, Mr. Credo. Are there questions from the board? Board Member Romero?
You said you found a solution for the shortfall?
Working with the city of Tucson, we found money in your budget, man. No, I'm kidding.
Let me know where it is because I wanna find some more. But you said, no, seriously, I'm serious. You said you found a correction to the shortfall.
Mr. Chairman, we have a solution that includes a variety of pieces. And so the short answer is, I believe yes. I'm not ready to say to you absolutely, but I have a game plan. We have a path to get us to that place. And I think, again, it will take everybody, but I'm very confident at this point that we have a game plan.
Okay. Sam, we want to acknowledge the laser focus of you and your staff on these projects and also the collaboration between the city of Tucson and PAG staff. So thank you very much. It takes us all working together to make this happen. Appreciate it. We're going to go to item 6, which is the RTA Next Plan update. Mr. Ortega.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So this is really starting to get into some of the follow-up, I'll call it, of conversations we've had around this table. And quite frankly, I think this is where the complementary document to the RTA plan really starts to take place and you get to see it. So this process has taken many, many months now. With the TMC. Quick shout out to the TMC in terms of the energy and effort they put forth, meeting weekly through their subcommittee to really provide feedback. And if you remember when we started this discussion, a lot of emphasis was placed on the admin code and on the policies and procedures. And so what we initially thought was, well, we'll create a new one, if you will, for RTA Next. But we found it was probably just easier to go back and revise the old one or the existing one. And so we did that, went from front to back, the entirety of it, several pages. And so again, it's an opportunity to demonstrate working together and making sure everybody has a voice and an opportunity and to be able to have consensus on a document and a recommendation to you from the TMC is very, in my opinion, very powerful of that process and showing and demonstrating how it works. So with that, Mr. Chairman, with your indulgence, I'd like to turn it over to Dan Gabbio to make a brief presentation.
Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for your time. We have a brief presentation on the effort that went into updating the admin code. And after that, we also have a summary of the public outreach efforts to date as well. So starting with the presentation, if we can pull that up real quick. So as Mike mentioned, we started this effort immediately after the board approved the RTA Next plan in August. So the policy subcommittee has met weekly since then, up until the time that they approved the document with unanimous approval on November 5th. I would like to take a moment to mention our vice chair, Mr. Paul Kiesler, is here as well. Really wanted to give a shout out to him, as well as our chair, Carmine DeBonis, and all the members of the policy subcommittee. They put in a huge amount of effort into this. It's our job to update that, and thank you to staff very much as well, but they did this above and beyond their daily jobs, plus homework assignments to review things on a weekly basis. So it's a huge effort. Thank you so much. With that, we also received unanimous approval from the TMC on November 12th. We also received legal review from Lisa Ann and incorporated that into the final document that you have here today. So as we get up the presentation real quick, just a couple of things to note. All the project descriptions of the RTA Next have been updated, all 57 projects. And the significance of that is that the CART and you all will be utilizing those as we go through the life of this plan for the 20 years, as their scope changes, updates to schedule budgets to reconfirm with that document. Also, to spare you all a little bit, we did go over 130 comments to the admin code. Here's our new admin code, and so you don't have a bunch of sticky notes like me or the companion comment matrix with all the comments. This is posted online for transparency, but you have a little cheat sheet in front of you. There's a little one-pager, and what I wanted to bring up with this is that the comments that you all provided as part of this process are incorporated as well. So I just wanted to highlight those for you so you don't have to dig through the document. Board Member Murphy, your comments from September 25th regarding granting the RTA Executive Director right-of-way authority for the entirety of the program, in addition to the one project that was approved on that date, has been included, and that was consistent with the language provided by Chairman Winfield for that project, as shown there. That's also on page 36 of the document. Board Member Romero, your comments relating to the goal of maximizing taxpayer value and supporting local business and workers is included verbatim per your memo, with the board's recommendation to include that as a goal on page 18. The language is there provided for you. Also, Board Member Romero, your recommended requests related to the CART membership and expertise, including transit, were also included as shown at the bottom of that first page. That's also on page 41 of the administrative code. And lastly, the city's share of potential additional revenue is located on a few places throughout the document, page 13, page 22, and as a part of Appendix B, the jurisdictional breakdown. That's the language provided for you right there. A couple other notes based on some discussion from the board, TMC and TMC Policy Subcommittee. Just wanted to highlight a few other areas. Key processes that we wanted to highlight that we worked through with the TMC Policy Subcommittee to put some accountability, transparency into our processes. Programming, advancing, deferring projects, as well as potential additional revenue. That's on page 20, if you'd like to have a closer look. Scope changes, project amendments begin on page 28. Project initiation and IGAs begin on page 29. Cost overruns on page 32. Surplus funds on page 36. And again, accountability, oversight, transparency in the CART role on page 39. So we wanted to highlight some of these, but of course, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns about the document, we'd be happy to address those today.
Thank you for that presentation. And for those that may be viewing, we're having some technical difficulties, or apologies that presentation was not visible to you. I'm sure it'll get up on the website here. It's after the meeting. Yeah. Questions from the board? You know, I want to acknowledge, and it was acknowledged, but I know that there was a tremendous effort put forth by Chair DeBonis and Vice Chair Kiesler and other members in terms of putting this, making these changes to the administrative code, as well as I want to acknowledge the board members that also made contributions. With that, I move to approve the revised RTA administrative code.
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Murphy. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Nay. The ayes have it. We'll go to item 7, which is the RTA board meeting schedule for 2026. Mr. Ortega.
Mr. Chairman, we were going to talk a little bit about our outreach activities under item 6.
My apologies.
It's okay. We can be very, very brief. Just wanted to let you know. And I probably should have put the countdown timer on this side so you all could look at it when you're sitting here. But we have 96 days. I'm going to turn it over to Melanie Lawson for just a quick overview, just so you know what we're up to. And by the way, if you know of anything else that you think we should be out having conversation around, please let us know. Melanie?
Yes, thank you. So the report that was included in your packet is just for the November activities. So quickly to review, there were 7 presentations to local groups and including tribal government. We tabled at 5 community events, engaging nearly 800 people. I also want to highlight that Gordley Group has been assisting us with hard-to-reach populations and attended the Thanksgiving Festival. They were able to engage over 350 people in Spanish, which was very great. We held 4 public Q&A sessions in November. There are more scheduled through February, and we'll keep updating our website. Additional communications updates, there was a podcast series that was launched with various guests, new 1-minute video updates that will be online, an email series. We'll be promoting the Q&A sessions through news releases and social media ads, paid radio, digital, newspaper ads. We will also be sharing RTA Next articles with businesses, civic and trade and other organizations. We'll be adding more content to rtanext.com, but currently there are fact sheets both in English and Spanish available on the website. And then just wanted to also again thank all of the jurisdictions and all of the leads and connections that you've helped us make. Please do keep it coming. We will focus on email communication and newsletters throughout December and January and have several events scheduled as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just wanted to mention the Q&A sessions that are going to be held at El Rio, El Pueblo, and in South Tucson will have a Spanish component to it. They will be advertised in Spanish as well. And so if folks show up and would like to hear the presentation in Spanish, we will provide that for them. So that way we will make sure that that population is addressed as well. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Board Member Romero.
Can we make sure that the jurisdictions where the pop-up events are happening are aware so that we can help promote for people to show up? So any graphics to use on social media or press releases, whatever we can, so that we can promote that information sharing.
Mr. Chairman, Board Member Romero, absolutely. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Board Member Murphy.
No, I just wanted to thank staff. Not only have I attended some of the presentations, I guess I was a little disappointed. We had probably more staff there than we had attendees, which is the downside, but we're going to keep working on trying to add additional ones. But also the emails that you send out with all the updates of that, I find that very helpful. Not that I have a short memory, but I have a short memory out of these meetings. So that really has helped me as a reminder, oh, they're going to be in Green Valley, or going to be in Sahuarita. So it's just been great communication. So I just wanted to thank staff for all of their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Murphy. I think you speak for the entire board. Board Member Jose.
I just want to say, I've seen all the information out there. I want to say thank you for coming to the Dawn Autumn Nation. I would say that if you show up somewhere and 1 or 2 people are there, then you've met your objective. If nobody was there, then you need to go back to the drawing board, because those 2 people are going to go tell 2 people, and so you know how that snowballs. And I really liked this pamphlet right here, and I've heard somebody talk about how it's just really plain and gets to the points and everything like that. And this is what people are going to remember. You know, they're not going to read all the other stuff and so forth like that. And so I just want to say thank the whole team that was behind this. Thank you.
Thank you. Board Member Jose.
Mr. Chairman,
Ortega.
thank you, Board Member Jose, for that plug. We did put a copy of this fold out in front of you. We have plenty of copies. We'd be happy to provide you so that you can distribute as you see fit or appropriate. But we are very proud of it. It's a very professional document, and I think it really gets to the point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You bet. Yeah. Board Member Maxwell. Can you turn on your mic, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to kind of echo what Mayor Romero said, but also, I mean, this is the information that our society as a whole consumes now. It's short, it's quick sound bites, it's quick posts, a lot of pictures, a lot of maps to show the impact. So anything, obviously, RTA is in a position where you can educate. And a lot of times it's the education post and then the comments underneath it where they connect with the individual saying those comments and they start to think. So anything that you can put in that's got social media aspects that we can put out, the more you can get it out to us, we can get it to the community, and the more we can get to the community, the more people are going to be informed instead of being uninformed voters just doing what their neighbor told them to do. So I appreciate the work, and this is great stuff.
Board Member Valenzuela.
Thank you. I just wanted to add to what Ted said. For your communications team, I think it is important that we tell a story. And each jurisdiction here has a unique need for this to pass. So having quotes or stories be told from each representative here, I think would be very powerful. As we share on social media, I would like to promote why we need this to pass in our communities. So I think the storytelling is an important piece we're missing instead of just graphics and stats. That speaks to the voters, and it's just does for a better campaign, is my opinion.
Any additional comments? Okay. All right, thank you. We're going to go to item 7, board meeting schedule for 2026. Mr. Ortega.
Mr. Chairman, we did provide a list of the meeting dates for 26. Gives you an opportunity to plan ahead. For that, I do want to point out we did move one meeting from Thursday to Wednesday because we expect everyone will probably want to participate on the PAG/RTA float. That's going to be, no, I'm kidding. But that does conflict with the parade, the Fiesta de los Vaqueros parade. So we moved it to Wednesday. I just want to point that out. The rest of them are pretty standard and they are all scheduled at this point to start at noon as we have in the past. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion. Okay. All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll go to item 8, which is similar to the PAG agenda, request for future agenda items. Seeing none, we'll move on to item 9, which is executive session. Lisa or Ms. Smith, I just have you listed here. Okay. We'll go into executive session.
Yeah, we just request that you make a motion to go into executive session.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll go into executive session. Okay, in agreement with Mayor Romero, we're going to
At
reconvene
the same time, can we do that? Yeah.
PAG RTA, and we've just returned from executive session. I move as directed.
Second.
So we have a motion. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, just so that we're clear, this is direction to the executive director and to the PAG attorney to proceed as directed in executive session.
Yes.
Correct.
And can we do it at the same time? The motion for both PAG, RTA?
I think so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we've done that.
We have a double.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The ayes have it. Both PAG and RTA is adjourned.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Happy holidays.
Buddy.
Yep.